Congress has got to stand up.
Let's bring in James Garofano, Senior Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. First of all, what do you think? Do you think the current system works?
Of course it doesn't work. Human traffickers have gamed the system. They figured out that you bundle people as a family, you bring them to the border, you get in, and they abscond. Essentially in the Obama years, the president basically put out a welcome sign. He was basically coaching human traffickers on how to bring people here. So people are literally gaming the system. Look, I've had analysts at the Caravan. Most of these people aren't even economic migrants. They're just people that think if they get here, they can get a better job. The vast majority of these people will not qualify for an asylum claim.
Why would the Mexican government say there is a tentative deal on the table only to deny it all the next day? What do you think is going on?
Well, look, this government is outgoing. The deal would be with the incoming government.
Yeah, and that's who's denying it, the incoming government.
And they cannot make a deal before they're a government. I mean, they just can't. So of course they can say, oh yeah, we made a deal, because legally they just cannot do that. The incoming government has every reason to want to cooperate with the United States. First of all, when you shut down border crossings, that really tees Mexicans off. People come over, they work here, it's a problem for them. And they don't blame Trump, they blame the migrants. And if this migrant convoy works, there'll be more and more and more, and that's just as big a problem, if not a bigger problem for Mexico than it's the United States. You can better believe that the incoming administration, they don't want this to become a recurring thing.
So then, the president tweeting that it would be smart for Mexico to do its part to hold asylum seekers on the Mexican side of the border, until they're already processed here in the U.S. So you think that this is a pretty good arrangement, or do you? And you just laid out what you think what's in it for Mexico, particularly President-elect Obrador.
Yeah, I think eventually the Mexicans will make a deal because they see it in their interest. Because what they see is this is a massive deterrent. Thousands of people are not going to want to sit around in Mexico waiting for entry to the United States, knowing that their claims will almost certainly not be verified and they won't be allowed in. So it's going to kill the whole strategy of the Caravan. So you bet I think the Mexicans would be up for it.
Now you do, I don't know if you read this, but I did, that some of the businesses in Mexico actually have jobs for some of the migrants, saying, yeah, we could actually put you to work in some of our factories.
That's not what they came for, but if that's what they want to do and Mexico wants to accept them, that's Mexico's business.
But wait a minute, if that's not what they came for, what do you think they are there for? Just to get to the U.S.? I mean, is it to get to the U.S. for a better life, which would be a job there in Mexico instead, or help me figure out where you're going with this?
Well, see, I think they would think that a job in the United States or the benefits in the United States are far better than Mexico, so Mexico would not be the preferred destination. But remember, an asylum claim is based on credible risk. In other words, that you specifically fear that you and your family's life is in danger. That's not what's going on here. And these aren't even economic migrants. They're not people saying, oh, I can't find a job, so I'm just trying to find a job anywhere, because they can find jobs in their own country and they can find jobs in Mexico. They think it's just a better deal to come to the United States. And in some cases, it's not their fault, because there are human traffickers out there. There are other people out there that are telling them, come to the United States. This has been something that's built up for 8 years under Obama, where rather than creating deterrents to illegal migration, essentially we've been pointing the way on how to game the system.
Tijuana's population of homeless migrants has surged to unprecedented heights, with nearly 6,000 spilling out of a municipal sports complex turned shelter, and many sleeping on the streets. To raise awareness of their plight, migrants on Sunday marched to the border, but what began as a peaceful protest quickly devolved into chaos.
They're just shooting more tear gas. They just opened fire with rubber bullets.
A group of the migrants rushed the border, and in turn, U.S. agents fired tear gas into Mexico. A few people were hospitalized, and dozens were arrested. After the clash, migrants like Billy Noe Martinez angrily passed around spent tear gas canisters fired into the crowd by U.S. authorities. He says the migrants never wanted violence.
No queremos violencia.
We come in peace. We don't want violence. We want justice.
One woman, Jaime Flores, said she's now planning to go back to Honduras because she was scared by what happened. She says she never thought it would be so hard to get into the U.S.
The crossing is too difficult. I'm not going to risk my children's lives.
The clash also led to a more than 5-hour closure of the San Isidro port of entry, which is the busiest land crossing in the U.S. Every day, tens of thousands of people cross the border to shop, work, and go to school. Cindy Vickers, an American expat living in Tijuana, had crossed the border Sunday to shop in San Diego. She got stuck trying to head back into Mexico.
You know, it's just ridiculous. There's people in Mexico that went down for the day. They go out to the playas, you know, and they want to come home, and now they're trapped there, and vice versa.
It's unclear whether there will be more port closures. But what is clear, Tijuana is running out of spaces for the migrants. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Mexico beefing up security today near its border with the U.S. and at the Tijuana Sports Stadium, now serving as a shelter for thousands of Central American migrants. The heightened police presence comes a day after the U.S. shut down its busiest border crossing with Mexico, where American authorities fired tear gas at a group of migrants who rushed the border. U.S. officials say migrants threw projectiles at border agents. Images from the scene show families and children among those running from tear gas. This followed a peaceful demonstration that saw migrants march, calling on the U.S. to speed up the process for those seeking asylum, fleeing violence and poverty in places like Honduras. Donald Trump repeated his claim today without offering evidence that criminals are among the migrant caravans, tweeting Mexico should move the flag-waving migrants, many of whom are stone-cold criminals, back to their countries. Do it by plane, do it by bus, do it any way you want, but they are not coming to the USA. We will close the border permanently if need be. Congress, fund the wall. Mexican officials now saying nearly 100 migrants are being deported after tensions escalated at the border yesterday.
As for Trump's push to get that money to fund his border wall, well, the clock is ticking there. And here's why. Right now, the Republicans have the majority in the House of Representatives, but that changes in the new year when Democrats take over, and it'll be less likely that funding for the wall will get support. So the big deadline to watch is December 7th, about a week and a half from now. That is when U.S. federal government funding expires, and that is when Trump is threatening to shut down the government unless he gets funding for that wall.
They had to use because they were being rushed by some very tough people, and they used tear gas.
President Trump defending U.S. Border Patrol agents after reports those agents fired tear gas against migrants who tried to rush the border from Tijuana, Mexico to San Diego Sunday.
Here's the bottom line. Nobody's coming into our country unless they come in legally.
Tensions escalated during a protest against the way the U.S. processes asylum claims. Mexico's Interior Ministry says when police tried to break it up, about 500 migrants tried to illegally, some violently, cross the border. This woman says it was like something out of a movie. Everyone started running. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents say some of the migrants threw rocks and debris at them.
Taunting the agents. So once our agents were assaulted and the numbers started growing, we had 2 or 3 agents at a time initially facing hundreds of people at a time. They deployed tear gas to protect themselves and to protect the border.
The port of entry at San Isidro was closed for hours, causing major backups at the end of a holiday weekend. In recent weeks, more than 5,000 migrants, mostly from Central America, have arrived in Tijuana by caravan. They've been camping out in and around a sports complex trying to get into the U.S. Fewer than 100 asylum petitions are being processed at this point of entry each day. In a tweet this morning, the president characterized many of the migrants as stone-cold criminals, saying they are not coming into the U.S. and we will close the border permanently if need be.
Mexican authorities say they will deport nearly 100 migrants who were involved in those clashes, and they're threatening to deport more if needed. Meanwhile, the president is reiterating his call on Congress to approve money for that border wall. Chris.
A battle at the border. About 500 migrants tried to enter the U.S. illegally Sunday, stopped by federal and local authorities in Mexico. In some cases, tear gas was used to disperse the crowd.
It was very scary. I mean, I just, I cross often, and this is the first time I've just been so afraid that I may just stay in America. No, but I mean, it is what it is.
President Trump tweeting this weekend that migrants seeking asylum will not be allowed into the United States until their claims are individually approved in court.
It's a humanitarian crisis. They can't afford to take care of those people and feed those people and have them used as a waiting room, as this president has had wanted them to do.
Mr. Trump even threatened to close our southern border.
Of course, we don't want to see the border closed, but you know what? Safety of our nation comes first.
The rush of migrants led authorities to suspend all crossings at the largest border checkpoint between San Diego and Tijuana for a few hours Sunday. More than 36 people were arrested at the border. Mexican officials say the migrants who tried to enter the U.S. Sunday will be deported.